Good morning, this is Sarah, your socially awkward seller, and I'm coming to you with a video today about parting out appliances. But we'll get into that in a minute. Any of you that follow me or that know me personally know that I love to part out items. It doesn't have to be appliances. It can be lots of things, and we'll get into those in a moment. And I thought I would go over briefly the reasons why I do that. The main reason that I do that is because many times the appliance or other item that I'm parting out is worth less than the sum of its parts. So in other words, by parting it out, I have a bigger return for my investment dollar, or return on investment. Let's get fancy. Another reason is because I bought an item that doesn't work. So there are times when I buy a food processor, a stand mixer, or whatever, and the actual electronic or electrical components of it don't work, but there are all these other usable parts that I can sell. Sometimes I only find the accessory, so I don't find the entire unit, but I find the accessory. Caution when buying those. It's better if you buy accessories that have the name of the brand on them. They're so much easier to research. And those are the main reasons. The biggest one is I just like doing it. So I thought I would go over some examples of items that I would buy to part out, because I did buy both of these food processors that are right here to part them out. So I'm going to do a comparison of how much they sell as they sit. Essentially, these don't have all the parts, but if they did, what they would sell for, and then break down what each item would sell for in a total of what my return would be. So these just happen to be Cuisinart. This is a Cuisinart Pro Custom series, Pro Custom 11 series, and I have with it the base, the work bowl, the lid, and there is a pusher insert. There's also a dough blade, a chopping blade, and the stem adapter. What is missing from this particular blender are the shred and slice blades. And those generally are the round blades like this. This food processor, also a Cuisinart, is the DLC-10E, and I think this one is a little older model. It's a couple models prior to this one. I paid $6.29 for this one. I paid $12 for this one. This one has the base, the work bowl, the lid, the pusher insert, the chopping blade, and the shred slice blades with adapters. So sort of equal here. This food processor, the Pro Custom 11 series, sells for about $100. Let me refer to my notes. Sells for about $100 if it's complete. And that is used and on eBay. The range is about $50 to $100. $100 being we've got everything for this food processor, and then that does not include shipping. This one sells for about $50 to $70, and this one does not sell as often, but you know, it does sell. So if I was going to part these out, even though there's a discrepancy in the price, one of them is worth more if it's complete, they sell as parts for almost exactly the same amount. Let's talk about this Pro Custom 11 series. The work bowl, let's see if I can get it off here. We'll just go over the parts. The work bowl, which is I'm going to drop stuff, just get used to it. which is just this part. Does not include the lid, blade, or any other parts. Just this work bowl sells for about $25. And the same is true for the 10E. The base for both of these, which is just the motor, sells for about $20 for each of these. Now, of course, this is heavy, and it's going to require a lot of shipping, like shipping costs, plus a lot of bubble wrap and a lot of headache. We'll talk about sometimes what I do with these later. The chopping blade for both sells for about $15. The dough blade for each of them can sell for $6 to $8. Sometimes people will put these together. It won't increase the value selling them together. Actually, you're going to sell these for $20, but this blade does not sell as often. So selling it together sometimes is better, just to move that blade along. The lids for each of these, and when I'm talking about the lid, you would think I'd know how to get that out of there, but I don't. I'm sure it's something fancy here. Anyhow, this assembly comes out, and it has a pusher in the middle. This assembly I do not always sell. You know, you would think it was just like my IQ was normal. I'll figure it out in a minute. Anyway, I just sell the lid. This part does not get sold with the lid generally. This lid will sell for about $20, and that's true for both of these. The pusher assembly, which is the big part and the little pusher in the middle, will sell for approximately $25 on this machine. And I don't know why it's different, but on this machine, here's what it looks like. Not sure why they put the lock on it. Anyway, enough rambling. This is the assembly on the 10E. This one sells for about $25. I'm sorry, for the 10E it sells for about $20. For the 11 series it sells for about $25. And as you can see, it's a 3-piece situation. The slice and shred blades along with the stem, and this is what an adapter stem looks like, sell for about $15. And those don't tend to be the first selling part. I tend to sell on these work bowls and chopping blades first. The base I don't always sell. Trigger alert, if this is going to upset you, I apologize, but this is the way I choose to do my business. Sometimes I will just throw the base away. And yes, I know we're filling up a landfill. I understand that. There are bigger issues that this country has that are filling up landfills than my throwing one appliance away. But my thinking is, if I can sell all these parts and keep 3 or 4 or 5 of these motors from getting thrown in a landfill, then I think it's a fair trade-off. I choose to do that on some models because the base doesn't sell. Or I'll have it for 3 years before it sells for $10, and it's just not the way I want to run my business. But on this Pro Series 11, if I sell all of the parts, including the base, for the average sale price, this will gross me $128, which is more than the entire thing will sell for. On the DLC 10E, this one will gross me $102, also more than the entire unit is worth sold together. So I just wanted to give you an example of parting out these items. I will caution you a couple of things about these Cuisinarts and about food processors in general. On these Cuisinarts, this is a chopping blade that has rivets. You can see those. Many of these are recalled, so you would need to check eBay does a pretty good job of warning you if a particular model is recalled. They do have replacement blades that do not have the rivets, but the reason that they're recalled is because the rivets have been known to give. So that is something you'll need to check. The other thing you'll want to check is just, even if this isn't a recalled product, that plastic band that's between the two blades can crack. And it's true on many of the food processors, especially the cheaper ones. This will crack. You don't want to sell one that's cracked, so make sure that you inspect that. Another part that you want to inspect before I get too far off on a tangent are the clips on the work bowls and the little hinge, or not a hinge, but the little slots. Sometimes these get cracked or broken. So anyway, so I mentioned that I sell other items, and that is true. Food processors are probably one of my favorite items to point out, to part out, but there are many others. Blenders are my least favorite thing to part out, just because there's not so many working parts on those, so there's just less opportunity for those. Stand mixers I like to part out. For example, these are the accessories for a stand mixer, and I do have the stand mixer. But you can sell like a pair of dough blade. These are dough hooks. These, I don't know on this particular model. This is a Sunbeam Mixmaster, but these could go for about 15. And then the beaters also 10 to 15. I've got the stainless steel bowls that can also be parted out, and you can do it as you like. Do you want to sell the small bowl and then the large bowl? Do you want to sell them as a set? You know, you can make those decisions. Do you want to sell the beaters and the dough hooks together? You can do that too. Also, don't overlook the manual. This can sometimes be worth $5 to $15 just for the owner's manual, the operation manual for that. Another item that I tend to part out, I know I'm all over the place, but that's why you guys love me, right? Because I'm just all over the place. This is going to look like a hot mess. This is a Jetsteam, American Harvest Jetsteam oven. Jetstream oven, just like my IQ is normal. This is what the top of it looks like. And I find these every once in a while. I paid $12 for this one. These can sell, this is a particular model. I'll show you how to figure out the model in just a moment. This one sells for, I wrote it down, $80 to $150 if it's used. This one is more of an $80 to $100. There's another model that's a little more expensive that sells for closer to the $150. Of course, it depends on how many accessories you have with it as well. Brand new on eBay, I've seen these sell for $300. These are basically, well, an air fryer or a convection oven. They're very similar to like a New Wave oven, but I think these were made prior to that. So if you want to check the model on this dome just screws off, and right there you use your model number. This is a JS 2000 TM, and the issue with these is that there is a belt inside here that turns this fan that just stretches out, probably from the heat. This one looks like it's in pretty good shape. If you're going to sell these whole, I recommend that you cook something in it so that it has time to cycle through an entire cook time to know if the belt is going to function the way it should function. Let's see if I can. Yeah, so again, this is an item that I like to part out, and I don't know why I felt the need to take that apart, but I did. Let's get that back together. Okay. So this motor can sell for parts. So if the belt's messed up, I think it sells for parts for about $10. This plastic dome sells for $20. And this isn't too bad to ship. It's larger, but you know, you can make that work, right? This is an expander ring, and it looks like this has got 3 sets with it. Basically, they hinge together. They sit on top or they sit under the dome, and they give you height. I've got 3 sets, and one set sells for $15. So there's another $45 right there. Here is the racks, and these racks can sell for about $15. This is part of the hinge. And I don't know what I did with the base of this. The other part to this. But anyway, this is the dip, you dip, we dip. This is the drip tray. This is the bottom tray. These sell for about $10 to $15 each. So, let's see what we've got here. If I sell all of the parts for this, it will sell for about $125. Now, the downside to parting out items is they're always the items that sell pretty fast and then the ones that you have forever. But my game is pretty much a long game, as long as it doesn't take up too much space. And, you know, I know it will sell eventually. I will hang on to parts like this. But they will sell. It will just take them a minute. So let's talk about some of the other things that I part out, and then we'll talk about brands. So let me see if I can find my notes. Oh, here we go. So food processors, I do part out juicers quite a bit. Lots of parts there. Usually about 6 to 7 parts on a juicer that you can sell, and those usually sell pretty well. Again, blender's not my favorite. I try to pass over those unless it is just something that has multiple parts, like it's a part of a food processor combo kind of thing. Otherwise, I tend to pass over them unless I just find the blender jar and it's, you know, $1 or $2 for the blender jar with the lid and the blades. Then I might buy it. But I tend to pass over them. New Wave ovens, which are very similar to that Jetstream oven, because the New Wave oven, that is the dome. Also, the Ronco rotisserie, I tend to part that out, especially if the base of it is pretty destroyed. You can sell the door off of it, which come off very easy. Couple of screws will get that off. The feet, like the track that the door rides in, that are the feet for the machine, they'll sell. The knobs, the trays, and baskets, and then the spit with the gears on the end that turns the chicken, those always sell for me too. Stand mixers, hand mixers, not so much, but I made a reference to them just because sometimes I find a cheap hand mixer that's got 6 you know, beaters and dough hooks and all whips with it, and I'll sell those all separately. And don't be afraid to sell just one. I've sold just one of the whips instead of the pair, because that's all it came with. So, or that's all I found with it. So those sell pretty well as well. And again, they don't take up much space. Shark steamers, I love finding those because usually they haven't been used very much. They have a ton of accessories, and I can usually get them for $10 to $15. The just the handheld part of the purple Shark steamer, and I think the model number is like 630 or 650. Just that base will sell for $40, and then I tend to sell the hose. There is a direct steam nozzle that sells for about $10. The hose sells for about $10 to $15. The steamer bonnet sells for about $8. So I just part those things out. And I know that selling something for $8 might not sound very exciting to you, but if I'm just doing sell similar, sell similar, sell similar on my listing, and changing a few specifics, um, easy to list, and those things only require a couple of pictures. So I really enjoy them. Um, the food steamers, not as much, but there are a lot of parts generally. They just don't sell for all that much, and really check the brands on those. You'll need to do some research to make sure that you're buying one that will sell. I find that the Tupperware ones that are the microwave steamers, those do okay. Meat grinders. So basically, the attachments that go on the front of a KitchenAid food processor, KitchenAid stand mixer rather, or an Oster stand mixer. Um, I've parted those out and I do pretty well with those. Again, some of the pieces sell fast, some of the pieces sell slow. I part out cookie presses, and I mean the manual ones and the electric ones, because I find them and they're not complete, or some of the parts are really like beyond selling. Um, they don't sell for a whole lot, but they do sell. And again, if I'm buying something for $3 and it only sells for 12, but I can, expand that return on investment by parting it out. That's what I'm going to do. Sewing machines. I can't tell you how many parts are on a sewing machine that come off without the use of tools. There are quite a few. The foot pedal, the the accessory box that fits onto the base, the foot, the presser foot. Um, there are some parts where the thread sits that sometimes will just come off with no tool. I have a lot of luck with sewing machine parts, coffee maker parts, the basket holder, the carafe, sometimes a water reservoir and a drip tray. Lots of parts on a coffee maker, but there are lots of other things that I part out that have nothing to do with kitchen appliances. Toys and play sets. I just parted out a big Thomas the Train play set. I haven't sold any of it yet. I just parted it out. I paid $25 for it, and I think I'll get about $125 back. And that set sells for about $125 if it's complete. Mine wasn't complete, so I decided to part it out. Flatware. I buy lots of flatware, and I, for most part, will part it out in pieces of 4 or 8 or 12. Doll clothes. I love finding vintage doll clothes. That's important. Your 1990s Barbie clothes might not sell for as much, but if you find those 50s, 60s, 70s Barbie clothes, even the Barbie clone clothes, ones that are handmade, ones that aren't Mattel, they can do pretty well as well. Electric blanket controls. Now, that's not necessarily something you part out. I find these just on the shelf at the thrift store, and they're usually a couple of bucks. I pick those up, and I haven't been stuck with one yet. Vacuum cleaner parts. A lot of times I don't buy an entire vacuum cleaner to part it out. I just buy the box full of accessories or a single piece that I can buy and readily identify. Kirby tend to do well. Rainbow brand. They make good bread too, but I don't think they're affiliated. Also, I do okay with Shark vacuum cleaner parts. Dyson. They're things that are just laying on a shelf that most people are going to overlook because they don't want that one little thing, but I can take and flip for a few bucks. And then finally, percolators. When I find a percolator that doesn't have a lid, I have the opportunity to part out the cord and the basket and stem. The body, not so much, but most of the time, that particular item that is on the shelf at Goodwill is going to make its way probably to the bins or probably right onto a landfill. So at least I've reduced the amount of waste, I like to tell myself. But there are so many other things that I can't even remember that I part out. I will part out just about anything. Those collectible spoon or plate sets, and not just any of them. I'm going through a collectible Franklin Mint spoon thing, and I've sold about half of those and the stand. And then as far as the collectible plates, they need to be something special. So I have been parting out a Thomas Kincaid perpetual calendar that has plates of the month, and I'm almost sold out of those. I think I have 2 left, and the actual calendar. So I'll part out anything. Let's talk about brands, and let's specifically talk about appliance brands because that's what I part out the most. It almost doesn't matter, because combinations of some things might sell, like this brand of this particular item, while it's a good brand, may not be a good item to part out. So you'll just need to look it up. But some of my favorites are Cuisinart and KitchenAid. Braun does surprisingly well. I buy a lot of their stick blenders and part those out, especially when I find them whole. Philips too. Philips stick blenders usually do okay. Black & Decker, Oster, Hamilton Beach, we'll come back to that. Kenmore, which is obviously older products. They're a Sears brand. But even those older food processors from the 80s can do okay. Regal, which is not a great brand, but they do make an item called La Machine and La Machine 2. And I sell those parts as well. Not fast, but they do sell. Krups, a solid brand. I do part out a lot of their espresso makers. And DeLonghi, I part out a lot of their coffee pots, coffee makers, and food process espresso makers too. So just a lot of different things, and I've not mentioned hundreds of models or hundreds of brands. So let's talk about Hamilton Beach. Hamilton Beach on the food chain is not very high up. It's your typical Walmart brand. It's sold at Target. I'm sure that Kohl's sells it too, but it's not your KitchenAid. It's a lower end brand. You can buy an average food processor for Hamilton Beach, like at $40 to $50. I think that Target has one for $50 right now. Just your basic food processor. But that item that sells for $50 new at Target only sells for $20 to $25 used on eBay. Just doesn't have a ton of resale value. However, if you part it out, you can part out 3 pieces, which include the pusher, the bowl, and the lid. Doesn't include the base. We're not going to talk about the base because it's not such a high end, so I don't like to sell the base on those because that's the working parts. But you can sell those 3 parts for $40. So that's more than you can get by selling it whole. Plus, it reduces the shipping cost on those items. So I just thought I would bring up that example that even though it's not a high-end brand, because it is a common brand, it is a brand that a lot of people buy, people will need parts for it. So sometimes even those lower-end brands can be worth money. One tip for you, for those of you that part out at the bins. Clearly, if you're paying by the pound for the items that you buy at the bins, my tip, my trick, is not that brilliant or anything, but it's something that some people don't think about. When you're parting something out, let's say pulling parts off a coffee maker or a vacuum cleaner or whatever it is, flip it over and take a picture of the part that hold apart, and take a picture of the model number that's on the bottom. Or just take a picture of the model number so at least you have something to refer back to, because obviously you don't want to buy the base of it just to know the model number because that's heavy. So if you're going to strip parts off of it, take a picture. I mean, most everybody's got a smartphone with a camera now. Just take a picture of the model number so that when you're back home and at your desk, you have a way to, something to refer to remind you what model number that was. But anyway, I wanted to go over this stuff just because there have been some questions about parting stuff out, and I'm sure I did a pretty crap job explaining it to you. But I wanted to get this out there so that you would have an opportunity to ask me questions in the comments below that I can address in a future video. I'm willing to do more comparisons, or show you some of the things that have sold in the past, or whatever you need, whatever questions you may have. Just put those in the comments below and I will address them in a upcoming video very quickly. So that being said, I appreciate you being here. I hope it kind of opens your eyes to parting things out. And just remember that the dream works when you do. So keep dreaming, keep working. I'll see you guys the next time. Bye.